Hello and welcome to Dopey, the podcast on addiction and dumb shit. And I'm Dave. Can you please paint the picture of what it's like to grow up son of Dickie Betts? Is it wall-to-wall hippie business? Is it wall-to-wall rock and roll? Because we want to know. When do you get physically dependent on heroin?
I got probably 21.
And you're touring. Like, so is that a thing?
Yeah, always.
At what point in this, the tar era, and your girlfriend leaves you and you're like, you're finding yourself smoking it more and more? Are you like, I'm a fucking addict?
When she left, I had a gig, I had a gig that paid pretty good. My mom kicked me out because I was kind of couch surfing, and I brought up where my mom had the house because I was living there, but I was couch surfing and partying and just going. I mean, I have crazy stories. I don't want to be like.
You don't want to be a prude? You don't want to be a prude on Dopey? Hello and welcome to Dopey, the podcast on addiction and dumb shit. And I'm Dave, and we're in the Park City Song Summit at the luxurious Pendry Hotel. And it's Duane Betts. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, man. This is such an honor.
Dude,
it's great to be here with you.
I've been tracking you down the last time I tracked you down was last summer at the Great South Bay Music Festival.
Yeah.
And I live by there. I live in Long Island. And my wife, you got busy and my wife was late. We missed you play, but I've been tracking you ever since. I've been persistent.
Well, I'm glad that we finally meet, and we're sitting here and we're gonna have a conversation. So this is good. And I knew it would I knew it would happen. I knew the stars would align and we'd hook up one of these days. So I'm glad to be here with you.
Yes, me too, man. And I've been listening to your music this morning. I listened to the new record from the summer. I can't think of
Wild and Precious Love.
Wild and Precious Love.
Yeah.
And it felt good. I'm not like listening to new music. I listen to old music, and I listened to your music, and I was like, this is good.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we put a lot of work. You know, anytime you put a record out, you hope that it lifts people up and affects people in a positive way. So, yeah, I mean, that one's been out for a little over a year, and you know, it's
fucked up though that people don't. I think people tend not to listen to new music. I think like maybe people like me, old fuckers, here it is. And I put on your record, and I'm like, I'll listen to this record. I'll listen to this record. It's beautiful. It stands up. Your guitar playing is sick. Your vocals are good. The songs are well written.
Well, that's really nice of you to say. You know, anytime you put out records as musicians, as artists, you know, there's always somebody that's kind of like at the top, you know, like Chris Stapleton. And so you can get like, man, I wish I was like, or you can just be like, man, isn't this so fun? And I'm so grateful that I'm in a position where I can build this, you know, and more people will know. And that's, you know, it's always that perception of like, is the glass half full or is it half empty? It's like, you know, if you're in a bad mood and you're being pessimistic, and everything that you feed into your, you know, it's like, oh man, why don't I have that? Or man, I'll never get to that. Or, you know, or if you know, then you can go on a hike or go take a walk or do yoga, and then the same thing you're completely excited about an hour later. You know, you're like, oh man, this is awesome. I can't wait to do the next one, and more people are going to know, you know. So yeah, I mean, it's just about expressing yourself, you know.
And you've been around rock and roll your whole life.
Sure.
And you've seen the biggest shit in the world, and you're part of possibly the greatest American family dynasty of rock and roll.
Well, that's nice of you to say.
Was there any? I mean, like maybe what other? Maybe the whatchamacallit, the oh my god, the Nevilles.
Yeah.
But who else? What other family? Robinson's family? No.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not.
You can't
I'm
say
not
it.
Here
Does it fuck you up to be a prince in the Allman Brothers dynasty?
I don't think of it like that. I mean, I look. That band is one of my favorite band. I mean, they're just the greatest.
No,
band,
but fuck the band. Like I'm talking about you being the son of Dickie Betts, which is probably a lot of pressure, but it informed your whole life.
I'm just proud of what my dad did and the man he was, and he wasn't perfect. None of us are, but man, he had a good heart, a big heart, and what he left us and the songs he wrote, and you know, his soul, it was just so pure, and his personality came out. So I'm proud of that,
man,
and I'm proud of the whole thing. Yeah, I'm proud of I'm proud to come from where I come from, yes. But I don't look at it like we're the biggest this or like
I don't mean it like that. You know. I mean it in a total, I'm in awe. Like, and I say this, like I have to say this.
I'm in awe of the music. I mean, that band, I mean, Greg, you know, I mean, there's a lot of other music I'm in awe of too. It's not like that's the only
for real
great band.
You were just remarking on how much you love Nas.
But the fact, oh yeah, I love Nas. And I thought that where you put the song in the video that you just played me was perfect because it was like the rebound, and it was like, okay, we're gonna get back up, we're gonna lift ourselves up, and we're gonna get tough, you know.
But what I really wanted to say, and I'm not gonna fucking harp on the Allman Brothers and all this shit. The way I felt about your dad, I didn't know him. Mm-hmm. I get chills. I almost cry. Like I did a tribute to him on our show the week he died. I love your father.
That's really nice.
In a way. Like that, I don't feel that way, and I love rock and roll.
His
but
music,
the way he spoke,
the way he played, I mean, he could play 3 notes, and it was just as true. It was like just right on the button, like an arrow that you make. That's just, you know, it was just so pure, so true, and there was no denying it, and so that's really nice of you. But yeah, I mean, that was the effect that music had, you know, like it's just, he was great.
We go on family trips, like me, my wife, and my kids, and my wife will make all of us say our favorite song of all time. And she goes to me, "What's your favorite song of all time?" And I said, I have to say Blue Sky.
Yeah.
And she made fun of me. She always makes fun of me for that. But when he died, I said, that's my favorite. And I met your dad years ago. Like I told you, I was on. I interviewed him, and I don't think he was sober at the time.
No,
I was not sober at the time.
He probably wasn't on. He was probably,
so.
You know, he probably was dabbling. He could have been sober. I mean, what year was it?
I would say it's 98, 99.
Yeah, you know.
He was in the press. Something bad had just happened. I don't remember what.
Yeah.
But it was a joy to be near him. Yeah. But I don't want this to be about him. I just want you to know, like.
No, it's okay. You know, I'm really proud of my dad, and you know, I'm part of him, and he's part of me. You know, I mean, I came from him, and yeah, I mean, he affected a lot of people. You know, his music really lifted a lot of folks up. You know, and you're one of them. It sounds like, you know, so. Yeah, man, it would be weird for you not to mention it. So.
Well, I know we don't have all day, so I'm jumping into this thing. When's the first time you got high?
I mean, the first time I used a mood-altering substance, I got drunk I drank alcohol for the first time. I was probably like 11 or 12, and I was at a party with some of the older kids, and I smoked, you know, we were passing around a joint, and I got liquored up, but I didn't like it. I didn't especially like it. I was hungover, or I was dizzy, and then the next day I felt hungover, and I honestly, I never really was a drinker. Me neither. I never was when I was doing good, you'd see me drinking like shots of tequila because that meant I wasn't on dope or you know, pills or smoking. But, you know, I was probably doing and not on opiates. So then I would be doing tequila to kind of balance it out.
So you seemed like a normal person.
Yeah, I would be out at the party. I mean, that was like, he's doing pretty good. He's out. He's not, you know. If I wasn't drinking then at all, then, you know, that meant I was probably on opiates, which was the vast majority of the time.
How old were you when you first tried an opiate, though?
The first time I tried an opiate, probably the first time I really was, it might have been when I had surgery.
What was the surgery?
And I really liked it. I had my spleen removed.
How old?
I have an itch, I'm sorry.
Scratch, please.
It was my nose, and my nose was really itching. I don't know, it's very
scratch
dry.
As much as you need.
It's very dry here in Park City, but yeah, I had Hodgkin's disease when I was 18. And they said, you're going to be okay. You know, that it's a really successful cure rate, and just do what we say, you'll be okay. So I had to go through, you know, a month of radiation treatment. I lost a ton of weight because it was right here it was in my neck. So they had to radiate all of that. So everything tasted like cardboard, nothing, I was nauseous. I lost, I was really sick. I lost like 10 pounds a week, and I was just skin and bones, but I was going to be okay. I knew that. But when it was done, I had to have a surgery to remove my spleen. And it gets kind of complicated. There could still be some undetected cancer, and if it would be in your spleen. So I could either it's like an 8 to 12% chance.
You don't risk it though.
So we took my spleen out. That's the basically the bottom line on that. But when they did that, yeah, I had I woke up and I had a liquid dilaudid pump or something like that.
I could go for a liquid dilaudid pump right now.
Oh yeah, I was like, this is awesome. Yeah. And my dad and my stepmom, we were at Cedars-Sinai. I was doing my treatments out in California. My mom lived out there, and I kind of grew up a little bit out there between there and Florida. But they were like, uh-oh. They saw me, and
because they knew it. They knew it.
They were like, uh-oh, he likes this a little too much. So yeah, that was probably the first time I got a taste of a strong opiate,
Can you please paint the picture of what it's like to grow up son of Dickie Betts? Is it wall-to-wall hippie business? Is it wall-to-wall rock and roll? Because we want to know. I want to know.
Well, I mean, growing up, it was pretty normal. I mean, yeah, my dad had tattoos and would play guitar. I knew he was a really good guitar player, and he'd come home off a trip, and it, the guitar had the guitar case, when you open it up, had this smell to it, and he'd be a little rough, from traveling and probably, drinking and whatever. But, but just looking, when we travel, we kind of like, we're tired and our like hair's a mess and stuff. But it was really, I mean, we camped a lot, and we went fishing and fishing trips. And I mean, he even coached my little league. Like, I mean, he was just a pretty great dad. I mean, of course he would have, his problems here and there with getting, he wasn't always a happy drunk, let's say that, but he wasn't really drunk all the time. I mean, that's not the type of drinker he was. He was more like a problem. Like a problem would arise here and there, like, and then it would be great, and then it would be a problem, and then it would be great, and then it would be a problem. So, but no, it was pretty normal. And then when the Allman Brothers band got back together in '89, that was where everything kind of changed, because I hadn't been alive for any of the Allman Brothers stuff. I mean, I was like 2 or 4 when they broke up, and I don't remember any of that really. So that was kind of going on tour for the first time, and the band kind of had a resurgence and yada yada yada. But then it was touring more and more, and then I was homeschooled, and I was just with the band all the time.
How is that?
Incredible. Really fun, really great. I mean, there was stuff happening. I mean, obviously, Greg had his, demons, and my dad, one of them my dad would be pissed off, and, but there was a lot of great shows and a lot of really great camaraderie on those tours. Those like 90, 91, with Warren and Alan. Alan, of course, we lost to an overdose. It might have been like 25 years ago now or something. Somewhere around 25 years ago. But Warren and Alan, and yeah, it was a really good time for me musically as far as learning, because I switched from drums to guitar around 15, which I was probably 93 was when.
Why'd you switch?
I mean, I was a drummer when I was a kid. I was really studied drummers and practiced.
Who'd you like?
I mean, everybody from, John Bonham and Keith Moon to Billy Cobham to, I mean, I went through phases. I mean, I was into, in 5th grade, fourth and fifth grade, I kind of went through a metal phase. So I was into like Nico McBrain, and I loved Metallica, and then I went through a Rush phase for Neil Peart, and then shortly after that, I switched to guitar, and then I was, listening to everything from like Albert King to like Nirvana and Smashing Pumpkins, all the stuff that was currently coming out, you know, at that time.
Being a kid on the road with the Allman Brothers, like that's wall to wall. I mean, I'm from New York City, and when the Allman Brothers would come and play the Beacon, it was like wall to wall hippie action. And when I finally,
there's a lot of hippies. Yeah, I mean, there's a, you know, that crowd is pretty diverse. It depends on the gig, and you know, there's a lot of like firefighters and blue collar, New York folks. You know, I mean, at the Beacon, no,
but it's a joy as a New Yorker to show up and see the Rugs on the stage and feel the grooves coming out. Yeah. And you're traveling with that. Are you like super stoner? Are you eating mushrooms all day?
No, I wasn't doing anything. So I had that first experience, and then I didn't really do anything. I mean, I tried mushrooms. I tried. You know, in my teens in Florida, I lived next to cow pastures, and we went out picking mushrooms, but it didn't really do anything. They weren't poisonous, I don't think.
That's good.
It didn't poison us and kill us, but I didn't remember really, you know. And then I did. I tried mushrooms, but I don't really remember really like tripping until later. You know.
When were you first getting psychedelic?
Probably 18, 19, around there is when I started. Somebody gave me some mescaline, and I had did some acid a few times, and had one really amazing trip, and then had one really weird trip where I thought my friend was trying to like seduce me. It was like really weird.
I bet he was, though.
No, I don't think he was. He wasn't really trying to. I just was like, it just wasn't the same. I could tell it wasn't the same stuff. I was like, this does not feel like the stuff that we had last month. It was like, what the fuck is this?
I had a trip just like that too with my friends, and we took a bunch of acid and we drove home, and we're smoking bong hits in the car.
Yeah.
And I was like, they think I want to. I told this story on the show, and we called it the gay tripper story. Because I was sure that everybody was like, the bong was this phallus, and they wanted me to hit the bong, and it was this weird gay.
That's kind of how pot makes me feel anyway.
Really?
Though. Not like paranoid, like, oh my God, like crack paranoid. Not like that. But like, just like, I would smoke it. I would go, you know, I was homeschooled through high school, so I would go to like a high school party, and I'd be out of my element, and everybody would be smoking pot, and I'd take a couple hits, and I'd be oh my God, I gotta go, like I can't deal with, like I'm so far behind these, you know, I'm not socially with what these people, and maybe that was true, but I was like, I could have like maybe realized that, but not like flipped out about it and had to leave. Like, you know what I mean?
Do you think they're like, holy shit, Dickie's son can't smoke. He can't handle his weed.
Nobody knew.
He can't handle his weed.
No, nobody knew who I was or cared. Right. It wasn't
only I care, right?
Yeah. No, it wasn't like that. It was just, I'm going with some friends to somebody's house, and there's, you know, 20. It wasn't like some high school party in like Euphoria, or like a movie where there's like 700 people in a mansion.
Right.
That was later in Malibu. Those were my Malibu years.
Right, that's post-Dilaudid. So let's get so you have this scare with Hodgkin's.
Yeah.
And they fucking pump you up with the liquid Dilaudid, and you're like,
oh, for the surgery, yeah. And I was like, cool. And then, well, that's great. And then I got through that, and then I went back, and I was hanging out with some of my friends in Florida, and I started to kind of, you know, started socializing more with people my age, because on the road, I mean, everybody's older, and I was around kids, but I was the only kid that was like out on the road all the time.
What other kids were out there? Was
Devin Allman would be out there, Barry Oakley Jr., Barry Duane Oakley, Elijah Blue, you know, Cher's son. You know, all of them. You know, the Trucks, Elise and Seth Trucks.
And Derek was older than you?
Derek would come out a little bit, but he wasn't out on the road. He would come and play with the band at certain shows, and he probably opened up for the band too, but I don't remember exactly. But I mean, he was like 13 sitting in with them. But yeah, I mean, everybody would come out for a little bit here and there. It was a cool family vibe, you know, like you might imagine. But But yeah, so I came back, and then I started. My friends were selling a lot of, ecstasy or Molly is what we were calling it. I know that's what the kids call it now too, but like the really pure,
the molecule of
the
MDMA.
pure molecule,
yes.
And so I started doing that a lot, and I liked that.
Yeah,
that
was
really cool. That was like 97. I was like 19, and
everything was lovely,
and that was excellent. And they had a little ketamine, and there was, a little in there. They were selling a little coke too, but it was more. Every night was of that summer. It seemed like it was the we were rolling.
Do me a favor. Called it. If a story pops into your head from that time, that's a classic story, because there's fucking classic stories of that.
I mean,
give me one. I know.
Well, I don't have a class. I mean, I just remember.
You're too humble.
I had a Toyota Celica, and my friend, he had like 2,000 hits in the trunk, and we had to get up to Gainesville to get to this thing on time, and it's like 3 hours away, and or like 3.5 hours away. We made it in 90 minutes. I mean, we were going through, and we would, around that time, my dad had just bought the house that we still have now, and there was only one. There was like a chandelier, like this like elk chandelier, and like there was stained glass, but there was no furniture or TVs or anything, but it was just this empty house. And it was like, but it was nice. It was really cool. It was a beautiful space. Like there was electricity. And there was the table's still there. The kitchen table, it's like this circular room that's like on the wing of it. And there's this table, and it's a glass top. You can see through the woodwork underneath, and it's this beautiful table. This probably from out in California, from Arte de Mexico. There's a store out in Los Angeles called, where he got a lot of furniture, kind of mission style and Spanish Mediterranean stuff. And we would it was around that time, and my friends, I mean, we just had like ounces of, blow on them. I mean, I didn't have, they just had it, and we just would dump it out, and we would spin the table. Yeah. So it's been a joke of every time I go in there and I'm with one of my friends who, like, I still have some. There's nights of the spinning round table is what we called it, and it still rings true. It's like, I mean, the table doesn't spin anymore, and there's like a bunch of stuff, but it's the same table, and it's like
the memories.
We were christening the house.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I have a lot of stories. A lot of my more debaucherous stories happened, in my 20s in California and in Malibu. I was in bands in Malibu, and
you played with Elijah and Alex Orbison, right?
Elijah wasn't in that band. I mean, I've certainly played with Elijah. We actually played at a friend of ours memorial. He had cancer, and he finally succumbed to it, but we had a really nice jam for him, and Elijah was there, and he was he was doing well, but no, I never was in a band with Elijah.
I thought
I was in a band with Devin, and I still am in an Allman Betts band.
I'm familiar with that band.
Yeah.
But I had once talked to Alex Orbison, Orby.
Yeah, Orby. Yeah, he's one of my best friends on the planet. Yeah.
And wasn't there a band?
White Star.
Yeah, White Star.
White Star. Well, and Backbone.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were in Backbone
69.
Backbone. Yeah, we had to add the number for trademark reasons, but Backbone was a band that we had in Malibu back in like 97, like 98, 99, 2000, 2001. And that was a really cool band and a great time. I mean, that was really, some fun, a lot of debauchery, but a lot of it was fun. A lot of it, went dark, but it would come back fun again. It was still fun.
Well, you were young. You had a good band. When did you move to Malibu, and why did you?
Well, I moved to Malibu when I was 12, but then I came back to Florida. So my mom's really good friends. My dad and mom met because my mom was already friends with Cher. So Cher and my mom have been friends for like 50 years, and so she offered my mom a job and wanted her to come out. So we moved to Malibu and lived on Point Doom at Cher's house. And
so you lived in Cher's house?
Yeah, I lived there.
My research is terrible.
Well, I mean, I'm just being matter of fact. I don't like go. I mean, I don't. It's not really that important. But you're asking how, matter of fact, how I got to Malibu. That's how I got there.
But as a student of popular culture, it's very fun for me to hear that you lived in Cher's house.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. Well, my mom and her have known each other. That's how my mom and dad met. Was because my mom was already really good friends with Cher. So then, Greg and Cher hooked up, and then my dad and my mom hooked up after that. So yeah, I mean, that goes way back, but we lived there. And then my dad said, I did a year of school in Malibu, and then my dad was like, hey, I want you to come back to Florida and live with me. And I was like, man, I just got used to it out here. I love it out here. It took me half the school year to get comfortable, and now that was my first thought. And then he goes, but I want you're going to come on tour with us, and we're going to get you a tutor, and you're going to grow up, go on all the tours with us. And I was like, hell yeah, I'm in. I loved touring. So that was I went back to Florida and then grew up on the road, and then I would go back out there to visit. But in my late teens, when I was about 19, is when I moved back to, when I had Hodgkins, I moved back out there to deal with that.
You were a good guitar player at that point?
Yeah, I was good then, yeah.
So how did you start playing with those guys?
I had met Orby and Chris Williams was our singer, and he passed away in a car accident. He was, running from the cops or something. I was in Florida when that happened, but that was the end of that band, was because he passed away. But I met them at Allman Brother shows through Elijah. Elijah was friends with Orby and with Chris Williams, and brought them to Allman Brother shows. So I had met them, but then I reconnected with Williams when I was out in Malibu, sitting in with a friend at the Malibu Inn, and Williams was like, hey, remember I met you? Why don't you come hang out with us? Why don't we jam? And then that led to that, and then, and then Chris passed away, and then we did White Star with Cisco Adler, and that was, and I was only in that band for 2 or 3 years. Then they had a reality show and stuff that I left before that.
Were you in that crazy flight back from Japan?
No, that was Orby. That was before
you got there.
Yeah.
Now, how debaucherous was Malibu for you?
Really debaucherous, but I mean really fun. Like just girls.
Debauchery is usually really fun at
in everywhere, and just I mean, it was just a fun time, and there was it was dark. It wasn't all just like kiddie fun, like, oh, we're partying and it's like it's nice. And I mean, there was some dark shit in there.
I see the way your eyes are going back and forth. What I see is you saying like, I remember this. I don't want to say this. I remember this. I can't say this. So I'm going to say this. You can say whatever you want, and whatever you don't want me to use, I'll take out.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not withholding anything. There's so many memories.
So talk about that kind of journey between it being fun to it not being fun, and because before it
was kind of like back and forth a lot. In the beginning, it was not always fun. I mean, it's never fun coming down off of and
Molly,
and especially when you'd end up at some stranger's house, and like there was times you go into town and end up at some weirdo's house in the Hollywood Hills, and you're like, next thing you know, you're coming down, you're like, what the fuck am I doing? Like this is so empty. But we tried to stay out of that situation and stay but yeah, I mean, then I started getting into and I mean, I never shot up, but I was, in LA, we were all smoking it.
What was the first time you stumbled into it?
I probably tried it. I tried it probably the first time I probably tried for the first time when I was 19 or 20. But then I didn't,
what was the situation?
Well, I was with a friend of mine. I'm not really going to say his name because...
It's Jacob Dylan?
No, I guess if I...
You don't need to say
his name. Doesn't even matter because it's not a name you would
No,
recognize.
it doesn't matter.
But
it wasn't Jacob Dylan. He didn't turn you on
never.
heroin.
No, I've never done heroin with Jacob. I don't think I've ever met Jacob Dylan.
Well, me neither.
I love him though, man. He did
great.
a really great tribute to my dad. I saw a clip of him in Florida. He was playing down in Florida shortly after my dad died, and he did like a medley of like Ramblin' Man and stuff. Anyway, yeah,
He's great.
He's great. But
I don't think he's on heroin either. I was just joking.
Yeah, he could be.
Yeah, he might be.
No,
I think he's all strung out right now.
I started smoking tar, black tar. That was like the LA thing, and it was like, but I just did it one weekend, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then I just was like, oh my God, I was so depressed afterwards. And I wasn't like,
but you come from
I wasn't withdrawal. I wasn't in withdrawal because I only did it like 2 days straight, but it just the sheer like doom of like the after effect of feeling so good and then feeling like dog doo-doo like the next day. And so I stayed away from, I was like, wow, my dad was right. Put a skull and crossbones on that. Like my dad always told me, skull and crossbones on heroin and skull and crossbones on crack.
Right.
Well,
but your dad suffered some huge losses from heroin.
Yeah.
And that
band. He did it when he was young, but they all did it. He says they all were doing it. The whole crew and everybody was doing it, and they were all shooting up except. Well, I don't want to say who was doing what, but
it's fine.
It's whatever. Who fucking cares? But he got out of it. He saw what it was doing. Then he just fucking was like, I'm just gonna do some blow and like have some like do beer, like drink beer and do blow.
It's like when I did like for the first time, my parents never fucking like my dad might have smoked weed once. My mom never smoked weed. My dad like drinks a beer like when he eats spaghetti or something. It's like there's no addiction there. So for me to do heroin, I was like, oh, Miles Davis did this, like Bob Dylan did this, John Lennon did this, like.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like I was kind of doing, like my. I felt like I was kind of like, okay, this is pretty normal. It's not as. I mean, I knew when I did that I was like really, and I knew how much I liked it. Like I was like, I knew I had opened up something that was not. Like, okay, I'm in a band and I'm young and this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like you kind of, when you're like, man, I shouldn't, I get why they say not to do this.
Right.
Did
you feel like you were crossing some kind of imaginary line that you had set, or you were just like, fuck it, I'm doing this?
I definitely, when I saw how much I liked it, I knew that I had crossed
it was a problem.
Yeah, I knew it was a problem. It wasn't a problem right away because I just was like, I stayed away from it for a while, and then then I would do it again, and then I would manage to stay away from it, and then I would do it. It would be shorter time, and then I had a girlfriend who, said she was going to leave me if she saw I did it, and then I did it. She found out I did it, and then she left me.
Where did you get it, in Malibu, or did you go to LA to get it?
Typically, you get it in Santa Monica right there. I mean, you could get it anywhere. I mean, not any, you know what I'm saying? You could.
Of course.
I mean, if you lived in.
I lived in LA in Echo Park, and I never.
You don't want to have to drive to like.
Downtown LA.
To like Malibu. Orange County.
Right.
If you live in.
Malibu.
If you live in Malibu or. When I say I lived in Malibu, I mean, by that point, my mom had her own. Had a son, and so she had a house in Woodland Hills, because I don't know if you know, but Malibu is pretty expensive.
I had
Do you know that?
Yeah.
But a lot of the people that we know are old school, like how we call it old school Malibu, and they're property, they're not rich producers and rich tech people. They're people that have lived in Malibu since like the 50s and earlier, and so they have property and stuff, and so they're obviously have attained wealth that way, but it's more like hippie, like people growing pot in their yards. I mean, that that's old Malibu.
Tell us about old Malibu. I like to hear.
I mean,
this.
I there's guys that grew up there that were born at Santa Monica Hospital and lived in the same houses, and one guy I knew paid like $500 a month for a house on the beach it was just a little cottage shack under the house that he grew up in. So, or actually no, the house that he grew up in, like as a kid, was the house next door. Like, so his neighbor when he was growing up is the house that he lived under.
Right.
And so he'd known her for, 50 years or whatever. And so, yeah, it's like, oh yeah, man, I pay like $400, $500.
Right. And he's on the beach.
Yeah. And it's, and yeah, those guys like saw Buffalo Springfield rehearse on Topanga Beach and, all kinds of shit, like through the 70s, like dealing coke to all these actors.
Keith Moon lives on the beach.
All of that shit. Yeah. I mean, I wish those, yeah, there was a lot of, that was what was so cool. It was like a family, and it was like a bunch of people that were even younger than you. I mean, a little younger, like teenager. We were like, I was like 21, 20, 22. And then there was like high school girls, and there was like these older dudes that saw Buffalo Springfield rehearse that loved our music because it was classic, and it was like harken back to like
the old days.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was like, it was really a really cool vibe, and everybody, and there's a sense of community in Malibu. I think that it still exists. I don't live there anymore, but I was just there, and it's a really spiritual place for me. I got clean. I got sober there. So I went on, I love hiking there, and I love it when there's surf and like the energy
it's
off
beautiful.
the ocean.
It's
crazy. What's not to love? So, but
at what point in the tar era and your girlfriend leaves you and you're finding yourself smoking it more and more? Are you like, I'm a fucking addict?
When she left, I had a gig. I had a gig that paid pretty good, and my mom kicked me out because I was kind of couch surfing, and I brought up where my mom had the house because I was living there, but I was couch surfing and partying and just going, then I'd go back to get cleaned up, and then I'd go back out and start the party all over again. And it was really fun, and it worked for a while. But eventually I had an argument with my mom, and it got to a point, and I had a gig that paid pretty good. I mean, for what I was relative to what I had been making playing music, which was nothing. But
what was the gig?
It was actually a gig. It was a thing called Blue Floyd, and it was a thing that Alan Woody and Matt Apps from Government Mule did with Mark Ford from the Black Crows, who's one of my favorite guitar players, and Johnny Neal, who played in my dad's band in the 80s and was in the Allman Brothers for a couple of years, and Barry Oakley Jr. And who was the other guitar player? Oh, Alan and Matt had to do Government Mule, so Alan was actually playing guitar in it, so I replaced Alan as the other guitar player with Mark. So I just did a month
with Mark Ford.
Yeah,
that's
awesome. Mark's a good friend of mine. We've gotten high a lot together, but Mark seems like he's doing a lot better too. So I'm grateful that we're all still alive.
Yeah, Johnny Colt listens to the show a lot, and he won't come on, but I think he's doing good too.
Yeah, no, I love Mark, but that was a gig, and
Mark said no straight up. I was like, "Do you want to come on the show?" He's like, "No, thank you." That was it. Because his stories, I think, are insane.
Yeah, he probably doesn't. I mean, I have crazy stories. I don't want to be like.
You don't want to be a prude. You don't want to be a prude on Dopey.
Well, I mean, I don't
want to challenge you.
Do you want to talk about like, car wreck? Like, I mean,
tell me.
There's a lot of stuff that happened that, I mean, one time we were downtown scoring crack, and it was me and some guys in Malibu, and we got it, and we were coming back to the freeway, and there was a rave, like some late night party DJ thing, and all these people were driving around, and this fucking drunk driver runs a red light and hits us, and we flip. And we have all of this, you know, the cops are everywhere, and my friend, I'm just hoping that he doesn't, like, that he keeps it so we can fucking smoke it. And I didn't even really ask because I knew we had to deal with getting back and stuff. And we got a ride, and lo and behold, we get back and he has some of it. And I knew he had some of it, but I didn't ask about the rest of it. So we went back actually to the guy's house that I was talking about on the beach. Grew up watching Buffalo Springfield rehearse on Topanga Beach. And we partied until the sun came up. And around that time, you know, I was on dope, so I didn't feel anything. But around that time, it started wearing off. And the sun was up. It was probably 7, 8 in the morning. So we get back in the car to go back in the cop to, you know, because I'm like, man, I need something. And plus I need it anywhere. I was going to go into withdrawal. But
did you go back downtown?
No, we didn't have to go that far. We just went to Santa Monica. We just call and you say, I'm 15 minutes, and then they're like, meet me at Cloverfield Pico, 10 minutes, bye. You know? Yeah, and so then but he was like, well, I saved all this. This is I didn't get rid of it. I don't know. I don't know why. You know,
I had a friend who would do that, and he'd bust out the other half as like the most exciting move.
I mean, I got really bad. I mean, that was a little later. That was probably, you know, that was probably 2000, 2001. So I was
when
getting
did the
worse.
crack get in there?
I had tried it. I had tried it probably when I was 19.
Same thing.
And I just remember the first time I tried it, I was on tour in Chicago, and
with the Allman Brothers.
No, I was touring. I was one of my bands.
Which one?
I was on tour with Barry and Waylon Krieger, whose dad. I was in the band with them for about a year, and we did a tour, and we recorded a few songs. They had just gotten out of another band they were in. But anyway, we wanted to. Me and Waylon and you know, some people. We wanted to cop something, and so. He comes back and he's like, well, they didn't have what we wanted, but I got this.
We got this.
And I'm like, okay, I'll try it. And we had plans to go out to watch some blues at Buddy Guy's. And I learned really quickly what crack does.
Right.
I was like, you know,
we're not leaving.
Well, there wasn't enough of it. It was but I didn't. So, I mean, it went around a few times, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then the second one, I was like, oh, that was great. You know, I was like, and then the third wasn't quite as good. And then the fourth. And then by the fifth, I'm like, well, how much is left? How much is left? And then there's none left. And then I'm like, and then, all right, it's time to go to Buddy Guy's Blues Bar. And I'm like, I mean, I'm not a drinker. You know, I wasn't like, okay, I'll go and I'll just have my favorite drink because I love drinking, and I can't wait to go to the bar. I was like, I want this to end. I want to like curl up and fucking wake up tomorrow to a new day because this sucks.
What did you get? Did you get benzos, or did you get?
No, I didn't get anything. I didn't have anything, and I just rather than go out and face it, I just called it a night. I didn't even go.
No, I was the same way. I could not find comfort in alcohol. I needed to go down.
I could have. I mean, there was times when I did do that because it was what was there. But there wasn't. I mean, it was in a hotel room. I wasn't gonna. I don't know. It wasn't. I was just like, I'll get through this. I don't want to drink, you know, liquor out of the mini bar, you know. But that was the first time I tried it. But
back to like the development of.
But yeah, there was a guy in Malibu, this guy Rico, and there was a guy in Malibu. He lived in this guest house, and you had to. This is like 99.
Okay.
And Williams brought me to this house. He's like, man, you got to come to this house. This was after the first time I tried it. And he would cook up these freebase black tar balls.
Wow.
And put them in a fucking water bong, and you'd hit it with a blowtorch, and it would be like the right amount to where it's just, you get the jolt mainly, but then there's like this little cushion.
Relaxation at the bottom.
There's something there. And it wouldn't always be. Sometimes it would be separate.
Did you call it smoking speedballs? What'd you
No,
call it?
I don't know what nickname we had for it, but he took a lot of pride in it. And you'd have to walk around this like path over the cliff on Point Doom, like on the backside of it. It was the guest house of this really nice house. Like it was just like this little shack, you know? And it was like very scary without being on
crack,
especially crack.
Yeah.
And you'd take a hit, and then you'd go out, and the waves would be crashing, and it would just be like, and it was just very scary, but like in a good way. It was like,
thrilling.
Wow, this is fucking scary, and I love it.
Right.
And I'm like, this guy's bad news. Like this place could get like the door kicked in.
Right.
So, I mean, I have all of these experiences from Point Doom, from being in nice houses in Point Doom to weird guest houses, like shack guest houses of old house, you know, to being in the hood in fucking Little Rock, Arkansas, like in the projects, ducking because I'm in an old Cadillac and they're like, man, get down. Like, you know, I mean, I've been all over the country, and and then in Florida, the culture there is a lot different than the west side of Los Angeles.
Because it's all pills and shit in Florida.
No, I just mean like the hood is right there, and it's like you go over a bridge and turn right, and it's like $20 million houses. You go back over the bridge, turn left, and it's fucking, you're in the hood.
Beyond poverty.
Like, you know what I mean? It's just a lot closer together. So my Florida roots are more, I mean, I had some really gritty times in addiction in both places. And I had some really kind of staying at the Ritz-Carlton on tour with Kid Rock in like 2000 and shit. We were opening up for Kid Rock in 2003.
Which White Star?
Partying with him every night, you know.
White Star or Dawes?
White Star. Dawes definitely.
No.
I mean, this is before the Trump era, so mind you, I mean, Bob then was a Republican, but it wasn't so
pronounced.
It wasn't so
over
you know,
top.
like he would, like his show was a political rally. You know what I mean? I don't mind. I mean, I'll play with whoever, you know, but I don't want to go play at a political rally. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, no, you know, so we had a lot of good times with that. And
what about being like, when do you get physically dependent on heroin?
I got probably 21.
And you're touring. Like, so is that a thing?
Yeah, always. Always. It was, you know, well, the truth of it is that I didn't tour a lot with White Star. We did a few tours, and we had a record that we were on Atlantic that they never put out. And then I left the band, and then they did subsequent tours, and they did a couple other records. But I went back and started playing with my dad. And I moved back to Florida when I was like 26. I started playing with Dickie Betts and Great Southern. Yeah. So I was touring in the summers and a little bit in the spring, but he wasn't doing it wasn't.
Did he know you were all strung out?
Well, I had gotten off of dope then. When I moved back, I got off of all opiates.
How'd you do it?
I went... I don't really recall if I just did it myself, if I used Suboxone and got off of Suboxone, or if I don't think I went into I got in a really bad car wreck where people could have really gotten hurt is what happened. I fell asleep at the wheel. I'd been up, and I was just trying to make it. I was in LA, and people in the band I was playing at, I mean, Alex, it's no secret, Alex was in rehab. So he was cleaning up, and we were just kind of waiting, and I was just getting high. It was gotten to be like, all right, it's time to get out of this, you know?
What was your habit?
And I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
Was bad your habit at that point?
I mean, I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't bad compared to what?
It was,
I mean,
it was,
bad.
It was, you
yeah,
didn't
I was doing a gram of dope a day, but I mean, I wasn't like, you know, it's not like I was shooting it up or anything.
I knew you were gonna say that.
I didn't have a lot of money. It would have been worse if I would have had money. This is back before.
But a gram a day is expensive.
How
much do you pay for a gram of tar?
Relatively cheap. $60 to $100.
Oh, that is very cheap.
Yeah,
a gram in New York seemed like it was a lot more money.
Well, you get it from the Mexican. I mean, they loved me. I mean, they would front me, and I offered to pay them back. Like after I went to Florida, I was like, man, I know I owe you. I gotta be owing you. Like, I mean, let me send you a few grand at least. Oh no, don't worry about it.
Why?
They
loved you.
Yeah, they knew I played guitar. I mean, I remember Oscar and Eddie. I remember all of my dealers. I liked.
They took good care of you, though.
They typically did. They typically had compassion for if you were sick, and they knew that you had money.
It was coming.
It was going to come, whether it was as much as they were giving you. Like they
were still ahead.
They were still ahead. So I don't think they loved me that much.
Well, maybe they did.
But I have fond memories of them. But no, I mean, things just were. Things had already unraveled. I mean, Chris died because we lost one band because we lost Chris. And we hadn't really ever gotten to do that band at the full potential. And then we did this White Star band. And it was a really fun band. It was a Hollywood party band, but it wasn't something that I saw myself doing for, the rest of my life. It wasn't musically, it was fun and it was cool. And people liked to come there and have a good time.
What did it sound like?
It sounded like Faces in the Rolling Stones, but like, kind of like a
90s version of
kind of like a caricature of it. Right, I mean, which in a unique way, it was fun. In other words, yeah, you could come out and sound like the Faces, but you're never going to be as good as the Faces. So why not do like a fun, like kind of side door interpretation of it? It was good. It was good rock and roll. But it wasn't emotionally deep. It was about like, little girl, come on, get in my limousine. Like it was tongue in cheek shit. It was cool. It was cool. I mean, I'm proud of everything I've done, but it seems
like that Chris's death haunted all of you guys. Like that you guys had so much potential with that band. Do you think about it from time to time?
I miss Chris dearly, and he would never died if he, it was clearly related, but his accident, but
just the band.
I've lost so many people. I mean, there's so many things. I mean, before that, I lost a friend of mine who died in my hotel room in New York City at the Beacon. I didn't even mention that.
What happened there?
We went to bed. It was me, Barry, and my friend Mike Madden, and he was older than me. He was one of my sister's friends in high school, and we all were doing. I think I did an oxy or a half oxy. It was before I was like, this was when I was playing 19 or 18, 19, and we were in New York City, and we were sharing a room, and there was a couch, and I had the bed, and Mike was on the floor, and we had a blanket and pillows and stuff, and I just woke up. I went to bed first, and I woke up first, and when I woke up, he didn't look right. And I found him, and I woke Barry up, and Barry is like my big brother, and yeah, we went through that together, and then the cops came, and the whole thing.
And he had OD'd.
He OD'd, yeah.
And what happened with the cops then? Did you have a problem with them, or they?
No, they didn't. They knew. I mean, there was never like any. It was pretty clear cut what happened. I mean, there was never any like, wait, you think I did it? No, it wasn't.
Of course, never any of that. And they're not looking for on you guys.
No, they didn't. I mean, I didn't have. I just had what I had. The only I had taken.
Did. Yeah, it's a tragedy though.
So that was before I was like
full on
like holding. But later, Yeah, I mean, you were asking about being on tour. Yeah, I'd always have to make sure I had. When I was back in Florida in my 20s, the oxycodones were what we were doing. The 30 or whatever we could get. But my friends, some of my same friends that I had been the friends that were selling the Molly back when in '97,
they had switched it up.
Here we are, fast forward to 2005, 2006, and they're selling these opiates, you know. And so, you know, I would be able to get fronted, and I didn't have a lot of money, but when I'd work, I'd make pretty good money, but we weren't touring constantly. So, I mean, there was a lot of like, not stealing, but, you know, when I'd run out of money, like there was addiction in our, you know, there was addiction in the family at that point too. So that was kind of codependent. Those were some of the darker time. Like when I got back, when I was off of opiates, before I got back on them, which was when I got back using the oxy, that was like, it's probably the darkest times because I was without my in LA, when I was in these bands, there was always a social scene. So I would go off after, and some of us that were into heavy shit would go get dark and like smoke crack or go off and score black tar heroin. But it always would lead back to the
being together
in like, there's like hot girls and there's like people drinking and there's
a
like,
good time. There's a good time
people,
nearby.
Like doing normal shit. And we're going off and doing this other shit, and it gets dark, but then we like
come back,
pull it back together, and we're back, you know. And then, you know, towards the end of that band, the kind of fabric of like our shows, it kind of was darker, you know. There was kind of more like guys that used harder drugs and it was less of that like fun thing. And but when I moved back to Florida, that was probably the darkest because I'd gotten off of opiates. But I went headfirst into smoking, you know, like rock. And I was like, when I got off the road, I mean, I never even thought about going out and doing, I mean, there's probably some times I did, and that would be great for me if I was out of the house doing, but I was literally like, it was really tragic. Like, it was tragic, but I feel like I needed to go through that to get it, maybe to get it out of my system.
What was so tragic, though? Like, and what was codependent?
Well, I don't want to get into exactly, but people, you know, like my dad was using, I was in my room smoking crack a lot, you know, like constantly. If I was going out of the house, it was to get it or to just go out to the driveway to meet the guy who was delivering it.
And what did your dad know about it?
He didn't really know the extent of it. He was obviously against it. He wasn't doing it.
Well, he put the skull and crossbones on the crack and the heroin.
You know, you know, I just didn't have any friends. All my friends were out in Malibu, and I was watching them get sober. That was the tough thing, is that I knew some of my friends started getting sober. Like when I left LA, like Orby, you had Orby on, right? Like he had gotten sober while I was
in Florida,
like, staying at his place. Doing at he had a space in Venice that we'd all hang out at and party, and you know, I didn't want to have to go back and show my face at where I was staying in Malibu, and I didn't want to go to my mom's. I didn't. Plus, that was a waste of gas, right? I mean, I'm gonna have to come back here to score in the morning, so why don't I just fucking stay here?
Right.
So I was staying at Alex's place and not for long, but there was a couple weeks there. I mean, he was in rehab doing great. So people were starting to get sober, and I was just really having a rough time and didn't really want to go to rehab, but didn't. And by the way, I'd been to rehab. When I was 21, I went to rehab down in Antigua to Clapton's place.
Wow.
Which was really cool. And
Did he show up?
No. I mean, it was really cool.
Because he was a crazy fan of your...
No, he doesn't know. He doesn't know who's staying there when people are staying there. But
it's like, Mr. Clapton, Duane Betts' son is here. I'm on my way.
I mean,
now.
I would love to meet. I have never met him. I'd like to meet him someday, but he's definitely one of my favorite guitar players. But,
yeah.
But you know, I don't know, what was I talking about?
You were talking about smoking crack in your room in Florida.
Yeah, I went through that, and I was watching people get sober, and I was like, man, it was really fucking depressing. But I was constantly using to, I mean, so I wasn't really depressed. I mean, I was constantly high. And I had this episode where I had a really bad scare, and that kind of, I continued to use after it. I kind of collapsed on, I had an episode where I collapsed. I did too big of a hit, and I collapsed, and I kind of had to like
some kind of seizure kind of thing?
No, I didn't have a seizure. I just really scared myself, and it felt like I couldn't see. I couldn't, like, I basically had to, like, I was kind of yelling at myself to get to the door, to like reach up, unlock it, get out, and yell. So someone from upstairs, because it was like at 6 in the morning, and I was in the main house. So my dad, there was times where I lived in the guest house when I was touring with my dad, and then there was times where I'd be in the guest bedroom in the main house, and this time I was in the main house, and so they were in the house, they're upstairs, but yeah, that scared the shit out of me. And I tried to go back in to find, after the the paramedics came and the cops had to come because it was like some technicality where they both have to come or something, but I calmed down. I didn't have to go anywhere, but I just literally was like cussing myself out to stay alive. That's how I felt. I don't know how close to death I was, but it felt like I was shutting down, is what it felt like. And I was like,
you think it was some kind of like an overdose kind of thing?
Yeah, well, it was obviously from the hit I had just smoked. But I don't know.
I wonder if it was physical, if it was in your head or whatever.
Well, it felt like my heart was about to explode.
Yeah.
Is what it felt like. And I didn't, no, it was physical too.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely, I couldn't, there was a plant from like the other side of the room that was throwing, it was like a tornado had gone through there for me to get to the fucking door, to get out, to save my life, is the way I felt. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I don't know how close to death I was. I'm not saying that.
It sounds like you were close.
I was out of my fucking mind. Okay. Like
yeah.
I was in, the whole thing. I don't know if like when I was doing, it was like, you go out, you can drive, you go out and have lunch.
Right.
I mean, and then it's when you run out, it's hell.
Bad.
But when you're on that shit, I mean, it's like you're watching, you're crazy. Like when you're just on that.
Yeah.
Like I was like, it's just seedy.
Heart of darkness.
But that's kind of how you're supposed to do it. If you're going to do it, you're
you
supposed
might as well
to
do
fucking
it like that, right?
do it right.
Yeah.
So that kind of scared the shit out of me, but I still had a ways to go. And finally I had gotten back on pills by then too. So
Oxys, Percocet.
Yeah, and when that happened, when they left and I finally caught my breath and stuff, I wanted to go back in there to that room to find the stuff. I had a bunch of stuff in my drawer still, and I wanted to get rid of it because I knew at that moment I did not want it. I wanted to flush it, and they wouldn't let me back in. They were like,
wait, who's they?
My dad and my stepmom.
Did they see you in that moment?
No, I that's why I came out, was to bang. There was this wrought iron post on the ground because people were hanging pictures, and I banged on the hard floor to get them awake,
right? To
come down, because I felt like the last thing I ever want to do is get somebody's attention
when you're smoking,
when I'm not supposed to be doing that. It's like the last thing I want to do is them hear me doing anything, and it had reached a contentious point where it wasn't working. And
was he like, Duane, you have a fucking problem? Did he kick you out?
No, I slept, and then I think I did it again like a week later or something. I lasted like a week, and then I was like, I'll just do like a really small hit. I'll be like really, and then but I was doing oxys this whole time too. So I have this oxy habit. And then that, you know, it finally just got to a point where I got arrested.
How'd you get arrested?
It's really fucking stupid. I was on
and I'm sorry, I knew this was going to go longer than you thought.
How long is it?
It's long, man. It's long.
Okay, well,
we got to stop. How'd you get sober? What happened? How'd you get arrested? I don't want to ruin your fucking day.
No, it's fine. I got arrested for just possession of powder
in Florida.
Yeah, we were coming back. We were coming back from my dealer's house, and cop pulled us over. And my friend, I had board shorts on, you know, like a bathing suit, so I didn't have underwear on, so I couldn't
stash it. Yeah,
and I didn't have any and I had a split second to throw it out, and I was like, no, dude, I'm not fucking throwing it out. And my friend said the wrong thing and gave him permission to search the car, not knowing that there's no way that this isn't going to fall out on the ground. So anyway, I went through court program, stayed clean other than, you know, I was on Suboxone for that. They allowed that. And then I got out of that. Then I started getting, you know, went on a bender or 2 or 3, and I had this big falling out with my dad. My dad was worried. My dad had kind of had enough, but he never would turn his back, you know. He knew and understood, in the addiction, you know, they're not, my stepmom too, you know, they both understand it. And my mom was very supportive, even though she doesn't have an addictive bone in her body.
But she was around it with the family stuff.
Yeah. She just has an aversion to it, but she was supportive nonetheless. And so that fight we had, that was we didn't speak for 6 months. And
what did he say?
I drove out to. It just one thing led to another. I don't want to get exactly into it, but it was it got physical, and it was he was just really pissed, and he was drinking because he was stressed that I was out, you know, on some 3-day binge. I was missing.
He was scared.
Yeah, and then so we got in this fight, and then I left, and drove out to California, and I got sober. And then I relapsed again. And, you know, when I was...
How'd you get sober that time? Did you go away?
I went to treatment. I went to my friend's facility and did I detoxed, and then I went in there. Well, I actually detoxed in there. It's a sober living. But
which place?
We kind of did our own little... Method. I detoxed in the sober living. My friend Khalil Rafati, he owns Sun Life.
Khalil, yeah, I know that guy.
Yeah, and he started Riviera Recovery.
He has a big smoothie business right now.
Yeah. He was
gonna come on the show.
Yeah, he's helped me out a lot.
All right,
I've partied with him a lot. He was, when I was at my worst, I would not hang out with him because he was so bad.
Really?
Yeah, no, he was. I dude, just get out of the fucking bathroom, man. Come on. No, I love him, but no, I mean, we had a lot of fun and a lot of really dark times together. But you know, the fun trumps the fun always rises to the top, as they say. But that first time, you know, and then I got out. I was doing good. I got off Suboxone, but then I did one night. It was just a friend was in town and he had it,
right?
And I had already kind of opened up the box. I think I had done or something happened,
right?
Bottom line is then I kind of pulled it together because I was playing with DAWs, so I wasn't. They don't do anything, and so I wasn't on when I was playing with them. Until the very end, but I was on Suboxone the whole time. I'd kind of relapsed and then gotten back on Suboxone and just was maintaining on Suboxone.
Sure.
And then after I finished that gig, that's when all hell broke loose. That's because I didn't have a gig that I had to be good because I was playing with people and I had to be professional
and you had kind of been
and all
good.
Hell broke loose. And then I went back to the same place. I went into detoxed. Went in back to Riviera, which was now owned by another friend of mine, Jose Hernandez. And
I don't think I know him.
Yeah, Alex and him are like best friends. But and then that did it. I mean, it's been 7.5 years now.
Did you go to meetings?
Yeah, a lot of meetings.
You still go?
Honestly, I don't. But I have a sponsor, and I talk to him. I just talk to him, and I read, and I don't do the online meetings.
There's no judgment. You don't.
Yeah.
I'm not judging
I just
you.
don't. I haven't been.
How long have you
should
been sober?
Maybe. I don't know.
I say you should. How long have you been? I mean, I'm just.
Yeah.
How long have you been sober for?
Well, October 26th is my wedding day. My anniversary is September 27th. So the 26th, 27th. October 26th. It's 7.5 years. So
you're doing fucking great. Do you ever think about using?
No, I mean, not like that. If anything, I get a little agitated. And then, but I mean, I have a lot of stress. I mean, we all have a lot of stress. So, I mean, I get to where, I need to go, like I did yoga this morning on the floor.
Nice.
Just like a 25-minute class, just because it's like I feel a lot better because of it.
And that's the kind of thing you do for your recovery now. You do yoga, you play music, you're with your wife, you have your puppy. What else are you doing
I mean, I
recovery?
try to talk to people. I read, I'm reading, just going back and reading stuff I've read, like the 12 and 12.
Right.
And, just doing what, I think that there's certain things that really work well for me that work, just for my chemistry, like my mood, like getting outside and exercising. As much as sometimes I don't want to do it, and I don't really do it on the road. Like I don't hit the gym at 6 a.m. if I don't like go. Some people I know really are good about that, and I make sure I do something. But no, I don't go up like way above and beyond if I'm like on a 10-hour flight and like But I try to eat really well and get exercise and take care of my mental health by that.
When you were first sober, did you like meetings or were you never that into it?
I liked them. I like the, well, I just have been on tour and And you
don't want to deal with fucking Zoom meetings.
I mean.
It's no judgment. I'm just asking.
Not really. I mean, I've, like when the Zoom meeting happens, I feel like it's more beneficial for me to go out and get a hike in first. And then if there's a Zoom meeting, maybe I should do a later Zoom meeting, but I'm not going to sit and listen to a bunch of like men, for an hour and have you tell me that's better for me than walking up a mountain.
Oh, I don't.
And like,
I have no judgment.
Not you per se, but like just like, I mean, for me, I'd rather do that and then go to the meeting later. I'd rather do that. I'd rather get the exercise done, and I'm not like in good shape or like I'm
you
not.
Seem like you're in decent shape.
I mean, I'm not like like I'm not gonna do a GQ shirtless ad or something. Like I'm not. I do it for. It's good for me and physically, but mentally, like I'm in a better mood today because I did a 25-minute class,
right? Than
I would have been in.
But that's good for your recovery. I know you got to go.
I'm into meetings. I enjoy meetings. I like in-person meetings.
They're doing them here. They're doing this meetings here.
I really enjoy meetings.
You should come. There's like Anders goes. Like
I love meetings. I just don't like driving into a town from another town.
It's weird.
And being like, okay, I have an hour before I have to sound check. Let me find a meeting.
And nobody on the road with you is sober?
They're
in and out.
No, they're not in or out. They're just, some people are basically sober, but they're not addicts. They're
right.
Just not,
that's what I mean.
Yeah, I'm not surrounded by addicts.
Right. So
I'm surrounded.
You should get a sober guy in the band, and then you fucking talk some recovery, and it's.
I have tour manager. One of my tour managers that I use every now and then. He was sober. That was cool. But I keep in touch with. It depends what band you're talking about. If I'm doing Allman Betts band, then I'm with Orby. But
who's sober as fuck?
Yeah, my band.
Palmetto
I mean,
Motel.
they're both my bands, but we'll say my solo band, Duane Betts and Palmetto Motel. is
what's Palmetto? Why do you call it that?
That's a nickname for my dad's guest house.
Nice.
A lot of people have stayed there, and Palmetto, you know, in Florida, you know, my dad, the little shrubby palm trees,
yeah.
He calls them palmettos. Like over in the palmettos,
right,
is what he would say. He'd never call them like over in the little
the
palm trees. So it's in Florida, you have this thing, you know, my dad's family is from Florida. Like my great grandfather came there in the 1800s or whatever. But, and my grandfather was born in Sarasota, and my dad was born in West Palm Beach, but grew up in Bradenton, Sarasota area. And I was born there. So there's a thing in Florida, it's called swamp cabbage, where you go out into the pastures, out in the woods, and you cut down those palmettos, and you cut out the heart of the palm,
right?
And then you take that home, and then you put it in a pot with pork fat, and they call that swamp cabbage. When I was a kid, I used to think it was swamp cabbage. It's cabbage, but it's the heart of palm, and it's a nickname. But
is it good?
Oh, it's great. I haven't had it in a while, but it's really good with pork or you know. Like
I'm sure you're starving to death.
Yeah, I'm getting pretty hungry.
Dude, let me play. We'll play.
But anyway, the Palmetto Motel.
Yes,
Billy Joe Shaver stayed there, and J-Mo, and Greg Allman, and Vassar Clements. All these really eccentric characters have stayed there, and there's been a lot of fun times there.
It's legendary spot.
And my dad lives on Palmetto Avenue, so then you have Palmetto Motel. But we call the guest house the Palmetto Motel.
And were you around at the end of your dad's life?
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure that was
I'm really blessed to. It couldn't have gone any. It was very spiritual and, you know, personal, but it was. I couldn't have asked for it to be any other way. So.
Well, listen, I appreciate this time. I have this little game. Will you play the little game?
Sure.
It'll be fast.
Yeah.
We call it this or that. It's going to be kind of annoying, but let's play.
Okay.
Grateful Dead or Allman Brothers?
Oh man, I'm gonna have to go Allman Brother. I love the Dead, man, but I'm gonna go with my family on that one.
That's fine. Oxys or fentanyl?
I didn't do.
I never got to do fentanyl. Me too.
I did fentanyl a couple times.
Fentanyl lollies? You go oxys. Right.
I did it one. I had a patch or something, and I took the whole damn thing out, and it barely put a dent in my. Like the lollipops, I think that's the real.
I never got to do any fentanyl.
I'm so happy that I'm not doing anymore and have to worry about that shit in my blow. You know, doing a good line of blow, and you know it's fentanyl.
Yeah, shit.
That's scary stuff.
Okay, Marshall Tucker or Leonard Skinner?
Man, I like Old Toy Caldwell, but I like Steve Gaines, and I mean Ronnie Van Zant wrote some pretty songs. Yeah. I mean Skinner's kind of hard to beat.
You're going with Skinner. Okay. Trey or Derek Trucks?
Derek Trucks. I love Trey.
Listen,
I love Trey.
Just to get an answer.
I love Trey, but Derek Trucks, he's one of the greatest musicians.
All of these this or that's, you're going to love both. So that's going to make it hard.
Yeah, okay. I love that. I love that it's hard.
Sly and the Family Stone or Funkadelic?
Sly.
Malibu or Sarasota?
Man, I love that. Hard. I have to go with where my family's from, Sarasota.
Nice. Tribe Called Quest or De La Soul?
These are all of these are both great. I mean, Tribe, I'd say.
Okay. Blind Faith or Traveling Wilburys?
Man, you're really making me. Blind Faith, I'd have to say.
Okay. Duane or Greg?
Oh, dude, I'm not choosing that.
You won't do it?
No.
Okay. Chris Robinson or Rich Robinson? This is our rock and roll brothers moment.
They're both great. I'll say Chris just because he's one of my favorite singers.
He's amazing. Amazing frontman. I saw him last summer. I couldn't even believe it.
Yeah, no, they're both great.
I couldn't believe how good he was.
I can pick, Chris, I wish I could sing like that. I mean,
dude, his whole thing.
Rich is great. They're both, what they do together is great.
You sing great. You sing great.
I don't sing like fucking Chris Robinson.
Chris is like a next level frontman. It's crazy.
No one sings like
it's crazy. Okay. Julian Lennon or Sean Lennon?
I mean, I like both of them, but I've met Sean a few times and he's been really nice, and so I'll say Sean, but I'm down with both.
I'm an old school Julian fan.
Yeah.
LSD or mushrooms?
Either LSD.
You hate this game. Biggie or Nas? Biggie or Nas?
Nas.
Bonham or Moon?
Bonham.
KRS-One or Chuck D? KRS-One or Chuck D?
They're both great. I'll say Chuck D because I was a big Public Enemy fan when Do the Right Thing came out.
I have such stupid questions here, man. The next question I have is Jerry Garcia or your father?
My dad, easy. But I love that. Jerry Garcia is like my top 5. But
right on. Jerry Garcia or Jimi Hendrix?
Hendrix.
All right, good.
I mean, you're putting him up against. It's like Hendrix.
I agree, but Jay Blakesberg picked Garcia over Hendrix.
Of course he did.
I know, but isn't that interesting?
I have to.
Nirvana or Smashing Pumpkins?
I am a huge look, Nirvana. When in the '90s, Billy Corgan was my guy. So I'll go Billy on that.
Sick guitar player too. BB or Albert King?
Both great. B. I'll go B.
Phil or O'Teal?
They're both fantastic, but Phil is, Phil's Phil. So Phil.
What's it like to be around him? Phil Lesh for the audience.
Just inspired. I wish I could play with him more. It's inspiring to play with anybody that, has been a part of so much and such a stylist. I mean, no one plays like him. It's so unorthodox. I mean, a lot of people wouldn't even think to play like that. But,
for sure.
But he has his own style, and the thing that Dead, I have so much respect in my dad.
He loved the Dead.
Too did really like how the Dead played off of each other and how they kind of had their community and stuff. There's a lot to be learned about that.
Yeah, I'm friendly with Alan Paul. Who teaches me a lot about your dad and stuff.
Sure, yeah, Alan knows a lot.
Yeah,
he's like a scholar.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
How's playing with Devin Allman? Like, how's that?
Devin, I love playing with Devin. We do the Allman Betts family revival at the end of the year, which is kind of a tip of the hat to our dad's catalog. And now that my dad's passed too, it's really appropriate to just do like a little 3-week thing. Annually and we get a bunch of guests. Last year we had, we had Anders and Jackie Green and Cody and Luther Dickinson. We had Jason Isbell sat in at the Ryman. Sierra Farrell sat in. But we have this year we have another great lineup, and we hit.
Where is it?
18 cities or so.
Oh, it's coast to coast. Does it come to New York?
Oh yeah, we're playing the Beacon. I don't have the date in front of me, but we're hitting the Beacon. So that's a really great thing. So we, Devin and I have a really kind of a bond that I have bonds with different people but the bond that Devin and I have is really unique and special because our dads both not only were in the band, but basically every song was written by either his dad or my dad. If it's not a cover of a blues song. So, Soul Shine is Warren and stuff. But I mean, the classic stuff is either, his dad or mine. So we're really proud of that,
You should be.
So it's great to play gigs with him and yeah.
Duane, thank you so much, man.
Thank you so much
for having me.
I'm sorry I took
so much more.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Was it all right?
Yeah.
All right, cool.